Welcome to this week's Cattle Call. I'm Susan Littlefield here on the Rural Radio Network. We're going to look at not only demand that's been moving on this cattle, but the frustration we're seeing from this grain price. So how much is the corn price hitting what we're seeing in this livestock market? Then add to it box prices. Is there not a lot of leverage going on there? We'll hit that and so many more today. As you can see, Brad Kooima is joining us. He's with Kooima and Varlick out of Sioux Center, Iowa. So let's start there. These grain prices not friendly to the cattle market.
No, and I think that's probably the right place to start today, Susan. Breaking into new highs. We haven't been this high for many, many years on the front end of the corn market, of course. And I really thought that was probably the catalyst or the feature to the news today. Sharply higher on the corn, and that, of course, took the wings out from underneath the feeder cattle market. So feeder cattle futures broke sharply, and of course that does filter a little bit into the live cattle from a psychology standpoint, but it certainly has an absolute direct influence on the mentality in a feed yard. Corn's about high enough up here, of course, but in the South, I know I talked to a friend of mine that's paying about 90 cents more than I am in the bunk for corn. So you're looking at cost of gains that are very, very high, and what happens, of course, the feed yard is incentivized greatly to just get rid of them. So anything that's close to fat that they can get a bid, they'd like to just turn them and then replace them with something that's going to eat less corn, or maybe not even just pause the button there for a minute on the replacement. So, try to be a little bit silver lining person, glass half full. The old days, that high price feed used to be short-term negative but long-term friendly. Because we have less of them, feed to less weights, less tonnage, less overall beef production and hog production. And you can see it in the way the spreads were today. Back months of cattle were 75 lower, for instance, on fib cattle compared to 195 lower on the June. So I thought that was part of the deal. Spreaders will look at high-priced feed environment, and that's the way they'll approach the market too. One thing that maybe I should at least touch on is the fact that open interest in the June cattle is big, Susan. It's come down some, but not a lot. So you got a large fund community involved. They have to move those positions. So it's a little like chasing pigs through the small doorway, right? Sometimes they all want to get out of it at the same time.
So as you look at the box prices and what we've seen this week, there's not a lot of leverage going on right there.
Whatever the opposite of leverage is, that's what we have, Susan.
Right.
Yeah, I feel like taking a full beer can and throwing it through the computer. I am so exasperated with the status of the market. You got a 280 box, and you're maybe going to get 193 or 4, maybe 95. Woohoo. Yeah, and then some will tell me, well, Brad, that's because there's too many cattle. Right. I think it's because there's too many turn-in cattle. There's too many formula cattle. There's too many cattle that don't need to establish price for. And so the packer's got all the leverage, and he doesn't ever have to chase. And that is obviously an issue, the spear that I've been carrying for a while. And if we can't get something done to make some improvement towards that now, then I don't know that we ever will. I mean, this is as bad as COVID. I mean, when they closed the plants, and then at least there was a reason. I mean, we kill 120,000 cattle today. We can sell the snot out of the box beef higher than it's been in a long time under any other normal market situation. And we're sitting here, with cattle that still lose plenty of money in the feed yard. It's beyond frustrating.
Does the South pull the trigger, though, too quick each week when it comes to selling cattle?
Does a wild bear? Just kidding. In this person's humble opinion, I would say that they're plenty easy negotiators. Yes. Texas does have a very big show list this week and last. That's what they'll tell you. Well, we got too many. The resolve of that commercial feed yard in the South is not nearly what I would like it to be.
Long-term friendly, can we look at something in this market to bring a positive nugget, maybe?
Of course. The macros are not different. You know, you and I have spent several weeks talking about the rising tide that floats all ships, which is inflation. Look at across the list of our markets that have had big improvements in price. There is a sort of a your turn in the saddle deal with the markets, and I guess I believe the cattle will get that, not just because of inflation, but also because of what I think is a major supply side fundamental, and that is 2 years of liquidation of the females. Cow herd down, what, 14% more in the last 2 years on slaughter. Heifer slaughter was between 5 and 7% more than normal the last 2 years. So there's data back that would make me think that we would have less supply as we look forward. And then the whole underlying issue that is this time of year, your expectation for demand would be that this is the best time of demand for the whole year. Now, that's in a normal year. Now we're talking about the backside of COVID, where there's this whole pent up, I think, demand or interest in, hey, let's go out and have a steak or whatever. And the demand that way has been outstanding. So now we just got to figure out a way to get these packers to share it a little bit.
Let's get it to warm up so folks can get some serious grilling going on and move some meat across those counters.
Had a little snow up here this morning, but I think we'll plant corn tomorrow anyway.
There's the optimism. Thanks so much, Brad.
Welcome.
Brad Kooima has been joining us for this week's Cattle Call. Just a reminder, these commodity futures and options do involve substantial risk of loss. They're not suitable for all investors. That's the Cattle Call. I'm Susan Littlefield.